I never thought I'd be the type to mix business with pleasure. But then again, I never expected to work at a place like this. I'm Emma, a junior copywriter at Apex Marketing, one of the hottest agencies in New York. The office is all glass and steel, with floor-to-ceiling windows that frame the city skyline like a living painting. During the day, it's a hive of energy, phones ringing, keyboards clacking, and creative egos clashing over the next big idea. But after hours, when the lights dim and the hum of the air conditioning takes over, it feels like a different world. A quieter, more dangerous one. I've been here 3 months, clawing my way up from intern to junior staff, fueled by ambition and a stubborn need to prove myself. I'm the kind of person who triple checks every email before hitting send, who stays late to tweak a single word in a pitch. Rules matter to me, at least they used to. That all started to shift the night I really noticed James. James is our creative director, the guy who can sell a campaign to a client with nothing more than a smirk and a clever tagline. He's in his late 30s, with dark hair that's always just a little too perfect and blue eyes that cut through you like a laser. Everyone respects him. He's brilliant, charismatic, the kind of leader who makes you want to impress him. But there's something else about him too, something unspoken. Whispers float around the office about his personal life, though no one's brave enough to ask him outright. Is he married? A serial heartbreaker? The mystery only makes him more magnetic. It was a Tuesday night, one of those endless slogs to meet a deadline for a major client. The office was mostly empty, just me and a flickering desk lamp, my laptop screen casting a pale glow across my notes. I was deep in a rewrite when I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. I looked up, and there he was, leaning against the doorway of the conference room. Emma, right? His voice was smooth, like he'd practiced saying my name. I nodded, suddenly aware of the coffee stain on my sleeve and the mess of papers around me. I wanted to tell you, your copy for the Johnson account. It was sharp. Really sharp. You've got something special. My cheeks burned. Thank you, James. That means a lot. He stepped closer, just enough to make the air feel different. Most people would have gone home by now. What keeps you here? I shrugged, trying to play it cool. Just want to get it right, I guess. He smiled, a small, private thing, and for a second, our eyes locked. It wasn't just a boss, praising an employee. It was more. The moment stretched, heavy with something I couldn't name, until he turned away. Keep it up, he said, disappearing down the hall. I sat there, heart hammering, replaying it in my head. Was I imagining it? Or had something just shifted between us? The next morning, I spilled it all to Rachel over coffee in the break room. She's another copywriter, my closest friend here, sharp-witted, with a laugh that fills the room. She stirred her latte, eyebrows raised as I finished. Emma, tread carefully, she said, lowering her voice. James is smooth, no question, but he's your boss. And you've heard the rumors, right? What rumors? I pressed, though I'd caught bits and pieces already. She leaned in, conspiratorial. Some say he's got a wife stashed away somewhere. Others think he's just a player who knows how to keep it quiet. Either way, you don't want to be the one who finds out the hard way. Her words stuck with me all day, a warning I knew I should heed. But by evening, when I was back at my desk, polishing a presentation, they felt distant. The office emptied out again, and I was alone, until I wasn't. Burning the midnight oil again? James's voice came from behind me, soft and close. I jumped, spinning in my chair. He was right there, leaning against my desk, his tie loosened like he'd finally let the day slip off him. Just finishing up, I said, my throat dry. This pitch has to be perfect. He nodded, his gaze steady. It will be. You're too good for it not to be. Then, almost casually, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face, His fingers lingered a beat too long, and a jolt shot through me. Electric. Forbidden. James, I started, but he interrupted. Emma, there's something I need to talk to you about. Alone. Can you come to my office? My pulse raced. This was a line I shouldn't cross, but my feet moved anyway. His office was at the end of the hall, a corner space with a view that could steal your breath. As I stepped inside, I noticed a framed photo on his desk, angled away from me. I could just make out the edge. A man, a woman, a child. My stomach twisted. Was it his family? Before I could process it, he shut the door behind us. Emma, he said, his voice low, serious. I know this is risky. I know I'm your boss. But I can't stop thinking about you. There's something here, isn't there? Tell me I'm not wrong. I froze. He was so close now, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Woodsy, warm. My mind screamed to back away, to think of the rules, the rumors, my career. But my body didn't move. James, if anyone found out, we'd keep it quiet, he said, stepping nearer. Just between us. My breath caught. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say no. I didn't know what I wanted until a sharp knock shattered the silence. James? You in there? It was Mark, the senior account manager. Tall, smug, always watching everyone a little too closely. James pulled back, smooth as ever. Yeah, Mark, come in. The door swung open. Mark's eyes flicked between us, narrowing slightly. Saw the light on. Everything okay? Just going over the presentation. James lied effortlessly. Emma's been a lifesaver. Mark didn't buy it. I could see it in the way he lingered, staring at me. Right. Well, don't stay too late. He left, but the suspicion in his look stayed behind. James exhaled. That was close. Maybe we should hold off on this talk. Go home, Emma. We'll figure it out later. I nodded, grabbing my bag, my head spinning as I hit the elevator. What had I almost done? What did Mark think he saw? I was stepping into something dangerous, something that could unravel everything I'd built. But the pull of it, the thrill, was undeniable. If you're as hooked as I was, you won't want to miss what happens next. Stick around for more, and maybe hit that subscribe button if you're into these workplace secrets. The next few days at work were like walking a tightrope blindfolded. Every time James and I were in the same room, it felt like static electricity was buzzing between us. We didn't talk about that night in his office, where we almost got caught. But it was there, unspoken, heavy. I'd catch him, staring at me during meetings, his hazel eyes lingering just a beat too long before he'd look away, pretending to focus on his notes. It was driving me insane, and honestly, I kind of loved it. Rachel, my work bestie, wasn't letting it slide. Emma, you're playing with fire, she hissed over lunch in the break room one day. Mark's been sniffing around about you and James. He's onto something. My stomach dropped. Mark, the senior account manager with the fake charm and sharp eyes, had been weirdly present lately, stopping by my desk with pointless questions, watching me a little too closely. What did he say? I asked, picking at my salad. Nothing straight up, just stuff like, oh, you and James seem tight lately. Fishing, She raised an eyebrow. You need to chill, or this is gonna explode. She was right. I knew she was right. But the thing with James, it was like an addiction. The way he made me feel seen, the way his voice dropped low when he said my name. It was a high I couldn't shake. So yeah, I kept walking that tightrope. Then came the email that flipped everything upside down. Team building weekend, mandatory attendance. Apex was dragging us all to some retreat upstate. 2 days of awkward icebreakers and bonding by a lake. I skimmed the details and nearly choked when I saw the cabin assignments. I'd be sharing with Rachel, thank God, but James, his cabin was right across the hall. This was either a disaster waiting to happen or, well, something else entirely. We got there Friday morning, the air crisp and the cabin surrounded by pine trees. It should have been relaxing, but my nerves were screaming. James was everywhere, leading a group exercise, laughing with the team, and every time our eyes met, it was like a secret handshake. That night, we all ended up around a bonfire. The fire snapped and popped, throwing shadows across everyone's faces. James sat opposite me, the flames lighting up his features, and I couldn't stop staring. I tried to tune into the small talk, something about client deadlines, but my brain was elsewhere. Then Mark plopped down next to me, way too close. "Having fun, Emma?" he asked, his tone dripping with fake cheer. Yeah," I mumbled, shifting away. "It's nice to get out of the office." He leaned in, his breath hot on my ear. "You know, if you ever need a friend or more, I'm around. James isn't the only one who sees how hard you work." My skin prickled. Was he flirting? Threatening? I didn't have time to figure it out because James shot to his feet across the fire, his jaw tight. "I'm heading in," he said curtly, and stormed off toward the cabins. Mark smirked. Wonder what's eating him. I couldn't sit there anymore. Muttering something about being tired, I bolted, my heart hammering. I needed to breathe, to think. I wandered down a path to the lake, the moonlight bouncing off the water. Footsteps crunched behind me, and I spun around. "Emma!" James's voice was low, rough. He stepped closer, half his, face in shadow. "We need to talk." "About what?" I snapped, crossing my arms. "Mark? Or how you've been dodging me all day?" He sighed, dragging a hand through his hair. "It's not that simple. Mark's watching us, and there's something you need to know." My chest tightened. "What?" "I'm married," he said, and my world tilted. "Technically, we're separated, have been for months. It's just paperwork now, but it's still a mess. I didn't want to pull you into it, but..." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I can't stop thinking about you. It's killing me." I didn't know what to feel. Married, separated. It was a lot, but part of me was relieved he'd told me. "Still," I whispered, "James, if anyone finds out..." "I know," he cut in, his hand brushing mine. His touch was warm, grounding. "But maybe it's worth it. Maybe we can figure it out." I wanted to say yes. I wanted to lean into him right there. But then, a twig snapped. We froze. "Someone's coming," I hissed, yanking my hand back. "Go," he said, eyes sharp. "I'll deal with it." I bolted back toward the cabins, adrenaline pumping. I nearly ran into Rachel near the path. "Emma," she said, frowning, "what are you doing out here?" "Just needed air," I lied, forcing a smile. Bonfire got intense. She didn't buy it, I could tell, but she just said, "Be careful. This place is full of nosy people." I nodded and kept moving, but when I reached my cabin, there was Mark, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. He didn't say a word, just stared at me with that cold, knowing look. My stomach twisted. How much had he seen? That night, I couldn't sleep. James's confession spun in my head, mixed with Rachel's warnings and Mark's creepy vibe. This was getting out of control, and I didn't know how to hit the brakes. One thing was for sure. The retreat wasn't over, and it was about to get worse. If you think this is messy, just wait for what went down the next day. Stick around. You won't believe how it escalates. And hey, maybe hit subscribe if you're into these workplace train wrecks. The second day of the retreat hit me like a freight train. After last night, James spilling his feelings, Mark's weird vibe, Rachel's worried glances. I just wanted to crawl into a hole and hide. But no, the retreat gods decided to torture me with a trust-building exercise instead. Blindfolded ropes course, paired up with someone. Guess who I got? James. Naturally. He tied the blindfold around my eyes, his fingers brushing my skin, and I swear my whole body turned into a live wire. "Trust me," he murmured, his voice low and close. I nodded, even though my brain was screaming, "Run!" The course was a nightmare, me stumbling around, him guiding me with that steady tone, his hands catching me when I tripped. Every touch was electric, and by the time I yanked the blindfold off, our eyes locked like we were the only two people in the world. Then Rachel piped up, "You two make quite the team." Her smile was teasing, but her stare was too sharp. I laughed it off and bolted, but I could feel the heat creeping up my neck. I needed air, so during free time I snuck down to the lake. The water was calm, the breeze cool, but my head was a war zone. Then I heard footsteps. Didn't even need to look to know it was him. "Emma," James said, all soft and serious. "We need to talk, for real." I hugged myself, staring at the water. "James, this is crazy. You're my boss. You're married." "Separated," he shot back, stepping closer. "And yeah, it's messy, but I can't keep acting like this isn't happening. I'm falling for you, Emma. Bad." My heart did a flip. "You barely know me. I know you're smart as hell, tough on yourself, and funny in this quiet way that kills me," he said, his eyes pinning me in place. "I know being around you makes me feel, I don't know, awake." I wanted to argue, to shove him away, but my voice betrayed me. "What about your wife?" He sighed, dragging a hand through his hair. "It's been over for 6 months. She's dragging out the divorce, making it hell, but I'm not going back. I want you, Emma." I scanned his face for a lie, but he looked so raw, so real. "If anyone finds out, I'll keep you safe," he said, closing the gap between us. "We'll figure it out. I just can't walk away from this." I was crumbling, leaning toward him, our lips so close. Then, crack. A twig snapped. We jumped apart as a group of co-workers strolled by, laughing about something stupid. My pulse was hammering. I glared at James, way too close, and hightailed it back to the lodge. Dinner was a slow-motion car crash. Mark plopped down next to me, his knee grazing mine under the table. "You're jumpy tonight, Emma," he said, smirking like he knew something. "Everything good?" "Yeah, fine," I mumbled, shifting away. His grin widened. "Maybe chill out a bit," he said, leaning closer. "Some people here aren't what they seem. Hate to see you tangled up in something ugly." My stomach twisted. Was he hinting at James? Or just messing with me? I bailed with some excuse about fresh air, practically sprinting outside. The night sky was huge, but I felt like it was pressing down on me. Then came the bonfire party, music blaring, drinks flowing, everyone pretending to unwind. I stuck close to Rachel, sipping a beer and trying to act normal, but my eyes kept sliding to James. He was across the fire, chatting with some higher-ups, but every few minutes he'd look at me, and it was like a jolt straight to my chest. Finally, he jerked his head toward the cabins. My brain said no, but my feet followed anyway. We ended up in a clearing, moonlight painting everything silver. "Emma?" he said, voice rough. "I'm done pretending. I need you to know how much you mean to me." Before I could think, he grabbed my face and kissed me. It was soft. Then, hungry, like we'd been starving for it. My hands clutched his shirt, pulling him in, and for one perfect second, the world didn't exist. No retreat, No rules, no consequences. Then, a sharp gasp. I tore away, spinning around. Rachel stood there, eyes huge, face white. "Emma?" Her voice cracked. "What are you doing?" My mouth flopped open, useless. James started. "Rachel, it's not—" "Save it." She cut him off, hand up. "I can't believe you. After I warned you, you're still—" She stopped, tears shining. "You're throwing everything away for him?" "It's not like that," I croaked, but she was already turning. "Rachel, wait!" I yelled, but she stormed off into the dark. James touched my arm. "We should go after her." I couldn't move. My best friend just caught me making out with our boss, our married boss, and that look she gave me, it was like I'd ripped her heart out. This was spinning out of control, and I had no idea how to stop it. All I knew was the crash was coming, and I wasn't sure I'd make it through. The second Rachel caught me kissing James, everything I'd been juggling, my job, my friendships, my sanity, hit the ground and shattered. I stood there in that moonlit clearing, my lips still tingling from his, while her footsteps faded into the night. My chest felt like it was caving in. I turned to James, his face pale, his hands half raised like he wanted to fix this but didn't know how. "We have to find her," I said, my voice shaky. "She's my best friend, James. I can't lose her over this." He nodded, jaw tight. "Let's go." We raced back toward the cabins, the bonfire's music thumping in the distance. My mind was a mess. Guilt, panic, that stupid thrill still buzzing under my skin. I'd crossed a line I swore I'd never touch, and now it was all unraveling. Rachel's cabin door was cracked open when we got there. I pushed inside, James behind, me. She was pacing, her eyes red, her arms crossed like a shield. "Get out!" she snapped, not even looking at him. "Rachel, please," I started, stepping forward. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" Her voice broke, sharp and raw. "That you're sneaking around with our boss? That you lied to my face after I warned you? I thought you were smarter than this, Emma." "I didn't mean for it to happen," I said, tears stinging my eyes. "It just did." James cut in, calm but firm. "Rachel, this isn't just on her. I pushed it. If you're mad, be mad at me." She whirled on him. "Oh, I am. You're her supervisor, James. Separated or not, you've got no business dragging her into your mess. Do you even care what this could do to her career?" He flinched, and I saw it. The guilt he'd been hiding under that smooth exterior. "I do," he said quietly. "More than you know." Rachel glared between us, then sank onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. "I can't deal with this right now. Just go." I wanted to hug her, to beg her to understand, but her walls were up. I grabbed James's arm and pulled him outside. The air was cold, biting, and I could barely breathe. "What are we doing, James?" I whispered. "This is insane." He turned to me, eyes fierce. "I meant what I said out there. I'm falling for you, Emma. I'll fight for this if you will." Before I could answer, a shadow moved near the trees. Mark. That smug bastard stepped into the light, phone in hand, a grin curling his lips. "Well, well," he drawled. "Didn't expect to catch this little show." My stomach dropped. "What are you doing here?" "Couldn't sleep," he said, waving his phone. "Good thing, too. Got some nice footage. Creative director and junior staff. Real cozy. Wonder what HR would think." James lunged forward. "Delete it, Mark. Now." Mark laughed, backing up. "Oh, I don't think so. This is leverage, buddy. You've been coasting on charm too long. I could use a promotion." I froze, every worst-case scenario flashing through my head. My job gone, My name trashed. James ruined. Then something snapped. I stepped between them, voice steady despite the terror clawing at me. You want to play dirty, Mark? Fine, I'll tell HR myself about this and how you've been creeping on me since day one. Think they'll like that story? His smirk faltered. You wouldn't. Try me, I said, staring him down. Delete it, or we all go down together. For a long, suffocating second, he just stared. Then, with a curse, he swiped at his phone and held it up. Video gone. You're both nuts, he muttered, stalking off into the dark. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. James grabbed my shoulders, pulling me close. You're incredible, he said, voice thick. Emma, don't. I cut him off, stepping back. It's too much. Rachel's right. I can't keep doing this. I'm not throwing my life away for something that might not even work. His face fell, but he didn't argue. If that's what you need, I'll respect it. I'll back off. I nodded, tears spilling over. I'm sorry. He touched my cheek, just for a second, then turned and walked away. I stood there, alone, the weight of it all crashing down. I'd wanted him so bad it hurt, but I couldn't keep pretending the fallout wouldn't destroy me. The retreat ended the next morning. I avoided James on the bus back, sitting with Rachel instead. She didn't say much, just squeezed my hand once, and that was enough. Mark kept his distance too. Guess I'd scared him off for now. Back at Apex, I threw myself into work, keeping my head down. James didn't push, didn't linger. We were professional, distant, like nothing had ever happened. It stung, but it was safer this way. A week later, I heard he'd put in for a transfer to the Chicago office. Divorce finalized, fresh start. I didn't say goodbye. Looking back, I don't regret it. Not really. I learned how far I could bend before breaking, how much I'd risk for a rush. But if I'm honest, late at night when the office is quiet, I still feel that pull. That what if? Maybe it's not over for good. But for now, I'm done with secrets. Thanks for sticking with my confession, you guys. If you want more workplace chaos like this, hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty of untold stories left. And tell me seriously, would you have risked it all for a shot like that? What would you have done in my shoes? Let me know. I'm dying to hear.